Silent awakening. The Centauri conference hall gleamed under the light of three suns, its crystalline walls refracting prismatic patterns across the assembled delegates. Captain Ilara Rivera stood tall, her Earth Defense Force uniform crisp despite the journey from Sol. She kept her expression neutral as Ambassador Thex of the Hegemony droned on about galactic stability and the proper place of developing species. Humanity has made remarkable progress in the century since achieving faster-than-light travel. Thex conceded, his four eyes blinking in asymmetrical patterns that Ilara had learned indicated condescension. But the galactic hegemony has maintained peace for 9 millennia by ensuring all species develop at an appropriate pace. Ilara's jaw tightened. In the 20 years since first contact, humanity had been classified as a Tier 3 emergent species, restricted to a dozen star systems, and limited in the technologies they could develop. The hegemony, dominated by the ancient Valkyrie and their close allies, positioned themselves as benevolent guides, but their restrictions felt increasingly like chains. The Terran request for expansion rights to the Epsilon Eridani sector is denied, Thex concluded, mandibles clicking. Your current colonial sphere is more than adequate for a species of your development stage. After the meeting, Ilara found Admiral Chen in the Garden Observatory. The Admiral's weathered face looked even more lined than usual as he gazed at the stars. They denied the expansion request, Ilara reported, joining him at the railing. Chen nodded slowly. As expected, the Orion Cooperative's application was approved, though. Their territory now surrounds our Procyon colonies on 3 sides. The Orions are Tier 2, Ilara said bitterly, and hegemony clients. Precisely why they received approval, Chen replied. We're being contained, Captain. The hegemony has no intention of allowing humanity to become a significant power. Sir, permission to speak freely? Always, Ilara. We can't keep playing by their rules. Every year, their restrictions tighten. Our population is growing. We need those resources in Epsilon Eridani. Chen's eyes remained on the distant stars. Walk with me, Captain. They strolled deeper into the gardens, where quantum-dampening fields prevented surveillance. The Admiral's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. 3 months ago, the deep space exploration vessel Magellan discovered something in the Perseus void, Chen said. Something that shouldn't exist. Ilara frowned. The Perseus void is outside our permitted exploration zone. Yes, the Magellan suffered a navigational error. At least, that's what the official report says. Chen's expression remained carefully neutral. They found ruins, Ilara. Ancient technology. Pre-hegemony. Possibly pre-Valkyrie. Ilara stopped walking. That's impossible. The Valkyrie claimed to be the first spacefaring race in the galaxy. They claim many things, Chen replied. The technology the Magellan found suggests otherwise. And more importantly, it's unlike anything in the hegemony classification system. The implications made Ilara's mind race. The hegemony strictly controlled technological development across the galaxy, organizing all knowledge into their tier system. New discoveries had to be registered, categorized, and approved before development. Unregistered technology was confiscated or destroyed. The hegemony doesn't know. Not yet, and we intend to keep it that way. Chen turned to face her directly. I need someone I can trust to oversee a special project, something that will ensure humanity's future, regardless of what the hegemony decides that future should be. 2 days later, Ilara stood in the command center of Ganymede Station, a supposedly minor research facility in Jupiter's orbit. The outer sections housed legitimate scientific projects, all properly registered with hegemony observers. But as Security Chief Major Hassan led her through a series of biometric checkpoints, Ilara realized the station was far larger than its official schematic suggested. We call it the Prometheus Initiative, Hassan explained as they entered a cavernous space hidden deep within Ganymede's ice. Below them, engineers swarmed over the skeletal frame of what could only be a warship, but unlike any Ilara had seen before. That design isn't hegemony approved, she said, her voice carefully neutral. No, agreed Dr. Imani Williams, the project's lead scientist, joining them at the observation rail. It's based on the Perseus Void discoveries. We've reverse-engineered some of the principles, though we're still far from understanding it all. The hegemony would shut this down immediately, Ilara noted, which is why they must never discover it. Admiral Chen said, stepping from the shadows, "We're building 12 prototype vessels, Captain. Completely off the books. Every component manufactured in secret facilities across the solar system." Ilara studied the strange vessel below. Its hull featured geometric patterns that seemed to shift subtly as she watched. What can it do? The propulsion system operates on principles we're still deciphering, Dr. Williams explained. But our calculations suggest it could achieve speeds at least 20 times faster than current hegemony-approved drives. The defensive systems incorporate a form of phase-shifting technology that should make the vessels nearly invulnerable to conventional weapons. And offensive capabilities? Ilara asked, already knowing the answer. Beyond anything the hegemony has permitted humanity to develop, Chen confirmed. We're calling them Prometheus-class vessels, after the Titan who gave fire to humanity against the gods' wishes. The hegemony representatives aren't gods, Admiral, Ilara said quietly. No, Chen agreed, but they believe themselves to be. Why tell me this now? Because as of this moment, you're being transferred to the Prometheus Initiative. You'll command the first vessel when it's complete, if you accept the position. Ilara looked down at the strange ship again. What's the alternative? Continue begging for scraps at the hegemony's table. Not just begging, Chen said grimly. Our intelligence suggests the Orion Cooperative is petitioning the hegemony for resource rights to Sol's outer system. If granted, it would control the helium-3 reserves in Saturn's atmosphere. They can't be serious. That's our home system. The Hegemony Council is considering it. The Valkyrie representative called Earth merely one planet in a resource-rich system. They suggested we don't need the entire solar system for a primitive species still in its adolescence. Ilara felt a cold fury build inside her. When do we begin? The next 6 months were the most intense of Ilara's career. While publicly commanding a standard Earth Defense Force cruiser on routine patrols, she spent every other moment at the hidden Ganymede facility. The first Prometheus vessel, designated Defiance, took shape rapidly, its systems unlike anything in humanity's technical arsenal. The engineers working on the project were brilliant, dedicated, and terrified of discovery. Hegemony inspection teams regularly visited human facilities, and each visit brought new restrictions. 3 research divisions at the Mars Science Academy were shut down for pursuing inappropriate technological paths. A propulsion research team on Titan was arrested for developing drive modifications that exceeded Tier 3 limitations. Meanwhile, Ilara trained with her newly assigned crew in simulators, learning to operate systems based on principles that defied conventional physics. The ship's neural interface allowed direct mental control of key systems, technology so far beyond hegemony-approved designs that discovery would likely result in Earth being placed under direct hegemony supervision. "They're afraid of us," Lieutenant Commander Jackson said during one training session. The tactical officer had previously served on diplomatic missions to the hegemony capital, the Valkyrie. They see how quickly we advance. The Valkyrie took 3,000 years to develop from first spaceflight to FTL travel. Dr. Williams agreed. Humanity did it in less than 2 centuries. Our rate of technological adaptation frightens them. So they hobble us with regulations, Ilara concluded. The situation deteriorated further when the Hegemony Council announced new oversight measures for developing species with concerning tendencies. Additional hegemony observers were assigned to every major human facility. Military vessel designs required pre-approval, and unauthorized modifications became punishable by dissolution of planetary self-governance. Admiral Chen appeared on Ganymede Station, unannounced one evening, his face grim. The Council has approved the Orion petition. They've been granted resource rights to Jupiter and Saturn's orbits. Those are our planets, Ilara protested. Not according to the hegemony. The official position is that Earth only has rights to immediate orbital territory. The outer planets are shared galactic resources that should benefit more advanced civilizations. When does this take effect? The Orions are already moving their harvesting fleets into position. They'll reach Saturn in 3 weeks. Ilara looked through the observation window at the Defiance and the Prometheus vessels. The Defiance is at 89% completion. The others range from 60% to 75%. Chen's expression was troubled. They're not ready, Ilara. We need more time. Time we don't have, she replied. If the Orions establish bases in our outer system, we'll never remove them without hegemony approval. A week later, as Ilara supervised final systems tests aboard the Defiance, an emergency alert sounded throughout the station. She raced to the command center to find Admiral Chen, and the project leaders gathered around a holographic display showing the Epsilon Indi system, home to one of humanity's largest off-Earth colonies. Hegemony Enforcement Fleet, Chen said without preamble. 53 vessels, heavily armed. They're demanding the colony submit to immediate inspection. On what grounds? Suspected development of prohibited technologies. Chen's expression was stone. Our intelligence suggests they intend to make an example of Epsilon Indi, a demonstration of what happens to species that develop too quickly. Dr. Williams' face had gone pale. The colony has over 3 million people. I'm aware, Chen replied. I've ordered every available Earth Defense Force vessel to converge on Epsilon Indi, but it will take time. Most of our fleet is positioned to monitor the Orion advance in the outer system. Ilara looked at the Defiance through the command center window. How long until the Hegemony fleet reaches Epsilon Indi? 38 hours. And the Defiance? Dr. Williams hesitated. The primary systems are operational. We haven't completed full integration testing, and the weapons systems are at 76% calibration. Will it fly? Ilara asked simply. Yes, Williams admitted, but I can't guarantee all systems will function as designed. Ilara turned to Admiral Chen. Sir, request permission to take the Defiance to Epsilon Indi. Chen studied her for a long moment. The vessel isn't ready for combat, and revealing its existence will expose the entire Prometheus initiative. If we do nothing, millions of our people will suffer, Ilara responded. And the message will be clear. Humanity can be punished at the hegemony's whim. The Admiral's shoulders straightened. Prepare your crew, Captain. The Defiance launches in 6 hours. Defiance rising. The Defiance slipped out of Ganymede Station during a scheduled sensor maintenance period. Its experimental hull absorbing, rather than reflecting light. The vessel looked strange even to Ilara's eyes. Its geometric patterns seemed to ripple across the surface, making it difficult to focus on any one section. Her bridge crew was silent as they cleared Jupiter's orbit. Each had volunteered knowing this mission could end their careers or their lives. Initiating Prometheus drive, announced Lieutenant Park at the engineering console. Quantum fold established. The stars outside the view screen blurred, then stretched into lines of light. Conventional FTL travel took 9 days to reach Epsilon Indi. The Defiance covered the distance in 7 hours. They emerged from FTL on the dark side of Epsilon Indi Ivy's largest moon, sensors immediately cataloging the situation. The news was worse than they'd feared. The Hegemony Enforcement Fleet had arrived early. 47 warships surrounded the human colony. Orbital defense platforms had already been destroyed, and ground bombardment had begun. Life signs on the surface, Ilara demanded. Still registering approximately 2.8 million, reported Science Officer Ramirez, but concentrated energy weapons are targeting major population centers. On the main view screen, Ilara could see beams of coherent energy striking the planet's surface. Each impact blossomed into an expanding circle of destruction. Conventional Earth Defense Force vessels, she asked. 3 EDF cruisers engaged the Hegemony Fleet. 2 have been destroyed. The Resolute is disabled, but still has life support. Tactical Officer Jackson's voice was tight with controlled fury. 4 more EDF vessels are approximately 2 hours from arrival. Ilara studied the tactical display. The Hegemony Fleet was arranged in standard combat formation, a sphere with the command vessels protected at the center. Their attention was focused entirely on the planet. "They don't know we're here," she said quietly. "Weapons status. Prometheus cannons at 81% calibration," Jackson reported. "Phase torpedoes loaded and ready." Ilara opened the ship-wide communication channel. "All hands, this is the captain. You know why we're here. The Hegemony believes they can dictate humanity's future, that they can punish us for developing too quickly. Today, we show them how wrong they are." She closed the channel and looked at her bridge crew. "Battle stations. Activate all defensive systems and bring weapons online." The Defiance moved from behind the moon, its strange hull seeming to bend light around it. For precious seconds, the Hegemony Fleet didn't register their presence. "Target the vessels conducting planetary bombardment," Ilara ordered. "Fire when ready." The Prometheus cannons discharge, not the familiar plasma beams of conventional weapons, but streams of particles that shifted between states of matter. They struck 3 Hegemony destroyers simultaneously. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the destroyers' hulls began to distort, molecular bonds failing at the quantum level. The vessels didn't explode. They simply ceased to maintain structural integrity. Alarms blared on the Hegemony command ships as they finally detected the unexpected threat. Vessels broke formation, turning to confront the single human ship. "Multiple weapons locks," Jackson reported. "Enemy vessels firing." Energy beams converged on the Defiance from a dozen directions. The phase shield technology engaged automatically, shifting the vessel partially out of normal spacetime. The Hegemony weapons passed through the space the Defiance occupied without making contact. "Targeting solutions for the command vessels," Ilara said calmly. "Prepare phase torpedoes." The battle that followed rewrote the rules of space warfare. The Defiance moved with impossible speed, its Prometheus drive allowing it to jump between positions without the usual acceleration limitations. Its weapons bypassed the most advanced Hegemony shields. Its defenses rendered most counterattacks irrelevant. In 20 minutes, 18 Hegemony warships had been destroyed or disabled. The remainder began to retreat, abandoning their bombardment of the colony. "They're sending out wideband communications," Communications Officer Chen reported, "calling for reinforcements, designating us as Threat Category Omega." Ilara allowed herself a grim smile. "Pursue the command vessel. I want to have a word with whoever ordered this attack." The Defiance overtook the Hegemony flagship easily. A precise shot from the Prometheus cannons disabled its engines without breaching the hull. "Open a channel," Ilara ordered. The view screen flickered, then displayed the bridge of the Hegemony vessel. A Valkyrie commander stood there, his exoskeleton gleaming under the emergency lights. His 4 eyes widened at the sight of a human captain. "This is Captain Ilara Rivera of the Earth vessel Defiance," she said evenly. "Your unprovoked attack on our colony has been halted. You will withdraw all remaining forces from this system immediately." "Impossible," the Valkyrie commander hissed. "Your species does not possess this technology. This vessel violates every Hegemony restriction placed on Tier 3 species." "Yes," Ilara agreed. "It does, and there are more like it. Many more." This was a bluff. The other Prometheus vessels weren't yet complete, but the commander couldn't know that. "The Hegemony Council will not tolerate this rebellion," the Valkyrie threatened. "Our full fleet will respond. Your worlds will be purged." "Perhaps," Ilara replied. "But we now possess weapons capable of destroying your most advanced vessels. How many are you willing to lose before the Hegemony reconsiders its position?" She leaned forward slightly. "Return to your council with a message. Humanity rejects tier classification. We reject your restrictions. The solar system and all human colonies are sovereign territory. Any further aggression will be met with the full deployment of our Prometheus fleet. The Valkyrie's mandibles clicked in what Ilara recognized as barely controlled rage. This changes nothing in the long term, human. The hegemony has maintained order for 9,000 years. One ship, one temporary advantage, will not change that. You're wrong, Ilara said. Everything has changed. She cut the transmission and turned to her bridge crew. Secure from battle stations. Begin damage assessment and prepare to render aid to the colony. The aftermath unfolded over weeks. The surviving hegemony vessels retreated beyond human space. The Orion harvesting fleet abruptly changed course, abandoning their push into the solar system. The Defiance returned to Earth as a hero ship, though its existence had been a closely guarded secret just days earlier. Admiral Chen faced censure from some political leaders for authorizing the Prometheus initiative without full governmental approval, but public opinion solidly supported his actions after the attack on Epsilon Indi. 1 month after the battle, Ilara stood in the Oval Office as the President of the United Earth Government conferred with the newly arrived hegemony diplomatic delegation. The Valkyrie ambassador, not Thex, who had been quietly replaced, spoke with careful courtesy. The Hegemony Council acknowledges humanity's technological achievements, the ambassador said. In light of recent events, we propose reclassifying Earth as a Tier 2 civilization, with expanded territorial rights and reduced oversight. The president glanced at Ilara, then back to the ambassador. That's a generous offer. However, as Captain Rivera communicated previously, humanity rejects the tier classification system entirely. Unacceptable, the ambassador replied, though with notably less force than his predecessor might have used. The system maintains galactic order. Your system maintained Valkyrie dominance, the president corrected. Our proposal is simple. Humanity will retain all current colonies and the entirety of the solar system as sovereign territory. We will establish diplomatic relations with the hegemony as equals, not as subjects. And if we refuse these terms, the ambassador asked. The president nodded to Admiral Chen, who activated a holographic display. It showed the other 11 Prometheus vessels nearing completion in the now public Ganymede facility. The first Prometheus vessel defeated nearly half a hegemony enforcement fleet, Chen said calmly. These will be operational within 2 months. Additionally, we're sharing the technology with other species who have suffered under hegemony restrictions. The ambassador's 4 eyes blinked rapidly. You would destabilize 9 millennia of peace. We would end 9 millennia of suppression, Ilara corrected. The Valkyrie have presented themselves as benevolent guides while systematically preventing other species from reaching their potential. That ends now. Later, standing on the observation deck of Earth Orbital Station Alpha, Ilara watched the hegemony diplomatic vessel depart. Admiral Chen joined her, his expression thoughtful. They've accepted our terms, he said. For now, at least. The Valkyrie don't abandon power easily. No, Ilara agreed. This isn't over. But the balance has shifted. The Perseus Void technology gave us an advantage they weren't prepared for, Chen noted. But they'll adapt, develop countermeasures. By then, we'll have advanced further, Ilara said. That's what they fear most about humanity. Not our weapons, but our pace of innovation. Our refusal to accept arbitrary limitations. Below them, Earth turned serenely, its blue oceans and white clouds unchanged by the shift in humanity's cosmic status. But beyond that blue jewel, everything had transformed. The stars were no longer distant points of light governed by others' rules. They were humanity's future, open and unbound. What now, Captain? Chen asked. Ilara considered the question, watching as the hegemony vessel vanished into FTL. Now, she said, we build, we explore, we become who we were meant to be.